Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Phil J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast, you know what's up, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is the DT Show. We're going to be talking back about the Bryan Kohberger case today. We're going to get involved in the potential dots that may be there to connect some potential answers to some problems and some questions that we have had. Today we have a special guest. We have Forensic Frenzy on the channel. Jasmine, she's going to be joining us here in a second. Before she does, I want to thank everybody that is tuning in. I want to thank all our mods, members on both sides. I know that we are also being streamed on the Forensic Frenzy channel. So welcome to all of you guys that are watching on that channel. And without further ado, let's get Forensic Frenzy on the line. What's going on, Jasmine? How you doing?
Great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm good. It was a good new year so far. The first half of the first month is already in the books. So 2025 is already flying. How about yourself?
Yeah, I would say so too. I didn't even notice that more than half of the first month had already flown by. I'm still telling people Happy New Year. And apparently you're not supposed to do that after the first 2 weeks. So I'm going to have to get my shit together and stop saying that, but I do want to say Happy New Year. So
thank you. Well, Happy New Year to you as well. I've been telling people all this way too. I mean, it's a new year. You should be happy about what's to come. And well, with what's to come is what we're going to be talking about. We have a couple of hearings that are going to be populating or coming up soon. Tuesday, we have a concealed hearing, a sealed one that we're not going to know much about. It from the outside looking in. It looks like it's going to be referencing the IGG, and then there's 2 other court hearings in the following 2 days after that, on the 23rd and 24th. What do you make about this, not secret, but this sealed hearing that is happening on the 21st? What, it sounds like the defense is arguing that they want a public trial. Public hearing. What are your thoughts on the fact that it's still sealed?
So first of all, I also wish that it would be open so that I could, hear it. But I think that the FBI's work, what they do, I know we'll hear about it, more at trial. But I don't know about so much during pretrial motions. I know that they served that mid-December, I think, ish, subpoena deuces take them. So I know that maybe that could be a part of it. It could be for, an FBI witness or something like that. But it also, they keep referencing in the documents protection of the names of the people on his family tree. So I really heavily believe that is both the argument from the defense and what is being hidden and sealed away. Not how I just said it, though. So let me go back. I do believe that the defense is going to argue that there was an issue with the IGG, but I think that what it is that they just want people to know that the IGG didn't necessarily land directly on Bryan. It landed on a family member. And I think they want to, contest the family member being found through IGG. I don't think it's actually Bryan, right? So I think they want to contest all of the whole entire thing. So that when I was wondering once upon a time, did they maybe link to his own DNA test? I think it's his sister. I've been told that. So I think that the issue is going to be that they want to hide, more or less, just the names that are on the family tree. If it, whichever sister it was, until necessary at trial. And
But
I think,
if it was a sister, let's just say that that's the case. It seems like the prosecution doesn't want the defense to know. Wouldn't Bryan Kohberger just ask his sister? Like, did either of you guys do a genetic tree thing? I think there was some rumors
so
that
I
Bryan
think,
Kohberger had done one.
I think that he would know, because okay, it's very possible that family members would do two totally different tests, but I
Uh-huh.
think it's more preemptively believable that one would take the same test as the other intentionally because they know their brother and sister. So they'll be able to have something as a comparison to see when other family members are linking to them, if they might be accurate or not. So it's like kind of like a starter phase. So I want to believe that he and his sister both took the same company. Um, and what was the question, the initial question again?
So the initial question is, if so, it seems like the prosecution doesn't want Bryan Kohberger's defense team
But why
knowing.
would he not just ask his sister?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know if she necessarily has to know that so that was what my question actually was when I built his IgG tree was how would they have not reached out to a family member to double check and make sure that they built the tree correctly? So if they didn't do that, then maybe she wouldn't know, right? And I guess you wouldn't have to make sure that you built the tree correctly if you landed on the sister.
Right, because
You know what I mean? Because you're way too close to actually be building a real tree, if that
right,
makes any sense to you. Also, I think that might be why you would throw the tree away or destroy the tree or whatever. It's because it was pretty much useless work, right? So you do find me through my brother, but the problem is my brother is still my brother, right?
right,
And and I think that they were, aside from the IgG, already building something that would have inevitably discovered Bryan Kohberger. So I think that there's a number of reasons why the sister may not really know, but I also do wonder if she maybe did, and maybe that was part of what made her suspicious.
right. And I don't doubt that that this is somebody that is close, because the way the documents read, it kind of seemed like they didn't really care about the extended family members of Bryan Kohberger.
Mhm.
It sounded like it was more closer to the intermediate family
Yes.
members of Bryan Kohberger with how the documents read. Uh, but my thing is, even if that's the case, like what's the benefit now of not telling them that it was a close enough sister or a close enough relative that it could have been his sister, could have been his mother, could have been, maybe a cousin, first cousin or something like that. Um, why, why, um, why, why hide
So
that information unless they aren't on, 100% on his side of things?
so I think that there's the prosecution is sticking to, we're not going to use it. It's
Hmm.
inadmissible. And therefore nothing that really came from it is necessary to
Hmm.
give to you. Um, and I think they're going with more or less, it's not work that we did. So I do believe that they're also going to need to get a subpoena to get that as well now from the FBI as well. Um, or the whatever lab company it was that did it, or
Hmm.
Thrum or whatever. Um, so I don't know if they're willing to even start digging and doing the battle, especially when I believe that they also believe that there's nothing to find because it's not there anymore. So
Right.
I think that they just know, we'd be doing it for nothing. So I don't know, but they should have at least saved what they did. Even though it was a small family tree. But from my understanding, that's exactly what it was, is that it was a small family tree. It landed on his sister. Um, he did not have He wasn't opted in for law enforcement to dig around in his stuff, but the sister hadn't opted out. So that was where the issue came in. They couldn't see that X was his sister, but when they looked into the sister, they could see that the sister was the sister of X, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And I understand that. I just don't know the advantage of the defense has in getting that information unless they knew for a fact that the sister had opted out of
Well,
being.
I think that they do. I only say that because it's not like the law enforcement officers get to go back in and like, dilly-dally inside of her account or anything. She can log in and she can see what her settings are. So she would know, like, oh shit, I'm not even opted out. And then I think she would realize, okay, if they did investigative genetic genealogy, I am also on there. So I think she would start to build the idea of this could be one way that they got to my brother. And from my understanding, whichever sister, big sis she's not pleased about what happened. So I have been, aware, Jesus, for quite some months now, that it was the sister, and that the sister is not thrilled. So I think the benefit is that in whatever way that the family is looking at it of Kohberger, they feel like that was some kind of violation, if not of his rights, of hers, because they got to him through her. But at the same time, apparently she had just not known and didn't opt out of the law enforcement search thing. She just didn't know. So
Right. I mean, I think that's quite possible. For me, I'm just curious because I know that the IGG has been used in other cases to find cold case suspects and things of that nature. But has the IGG ever been presented in trial itself? I don't know personally. I don't know at all. I don't think so, but I could be very well wrong.
that's a really good question, actually, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever personally engaged in a case where they brought that in. No.
Right. And typically it's inadmissible because they're not identifying a person, right? So what ends up happening is the IGG comes in and says, all right, it's most likely this person. Well, they still need to go out there and preclude that person's DNA. And so whether they do a trash thing or whatnot, trying to get his DNA by not having to have a probable cause, a warrant to get it, or a warrant which would require probable cause to get his DNA, which also, if you have that warrant and you go out there and you say, hey, we're going to swab you, those things don't come back that like within like 10 seconds. So they're going to have to release that guy, wait for the results. And if they come back positive, now you got to go back out and find that guy. Obviously, you're probably going to keep eyes on him and things like that. But it does seem like Bryan Kohberger got away from FBI at one point. To me, I just felt like if it's not used in trial, it's not being something that has been admissible in court. And one of the big things that they say in those documents is something to the effect that they don't want to give up law enforcement tactics. I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI just didn't want to show their hand on what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it. This is something that if it hasn't been admissible in court before, I don't think they want that to be a something that gets to, that their work gets dug into, which is probably why they destroy it immediately. Their policy is, hey, it's not admissible in court, so they toss it out. At least that's what it kind of sounded like when the prosecution was explaining why they don't have the work back in maybe a year ago or so. And so I thought maybe that had a lot to do with it, but the sister, there's always been rumors that a sister is somehow implicated into this case where they said some things, or maybe perhaps they were the person who did the IgG test. And you don't have to, go into any details or anything like that. I know folks have some sources here and there, but General Indecision asks, where are you getting this information about the sisters doing an ancestry test?
So I can't actually literally say where that came from quite yet. I can say that eventually, but not quite yet. I can tell you that it came in a phone call from a very credible source right around the time that we changed venue.
Good deal. Good deal. And so the arguments that the defense has for the IGG being thrown out is one that I think they're trying to get the IGG thrown out. One of the things that they're trying to do is to get it thrown out. So that way they're hoping that a lot of stuff that was found behind it, like for instance, the DNA swab, everything, because that was initially the first thing that occurred. And so they're trying to use the fruit of the poisonous tree. It doesn't jive with me with what I know about law. I don't, which isn't much. Let me rephrase that. I know that there's a lot more that I don't know than I do know when it comes to like legal proceedings in court and law and stuff like that. But man, I forgot where I was going with that. What was I saying?
You were saying that they were trying to have the IGG and stuff like that suppressed.
Okay, yeah. So if they were to have it suppressed, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, because it's not used on any document at all. Do you have any worry that something may be thrown out or dismissed when looking at the documents?
Okay. So, you don't know a lot about the law. I only know enough about criminal justice to have a bachelor's degree. Okay. So I don't know a lot about the law either. Right. But one thing that I do know is that they do. Okay. And Ann Taylor, Jay Logsdon, Elisa Masseth have stated in their documents, the prosecution will argue that all of this would have been discovered inevitably. And they will. And I think that they will because they can. So when she says that IGG identified Bryan Kohberger on the 19th, I think that means affirmation, confirmation. But I don't know if that means that that's when they actually first heard the name Bryan Kohberger and started chasing him around and stuff like that. And I only say that because on the 16th, he's in the CVS.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And that's at least 3 days prior. So there's something that's not quite making sense in the math of this. Someone knew who Bryan was on the 16th, and for sure, because they followed him into the CVS. So was it the FBI then, like Howard Bloom says? And if that's the case, then when did the FBI know for sure that the IGG was turned in? And there becomes a whole lot. There's a whole lot behind that. As for not using the IGG and any of the warrants, they did use it in the Washington warrant. They did find hairs, animal hair, human hair, some potential, possible blood stains and stuff like that in the apartment. From my understanding, a dog hair could be very valuable, not just because you can track what dog it came from,
right,
but because you can tell that, for example, you track the breed of the dog. It's a German Shepherd. And then you swab and search the actual dog hair that you have for more DNA, for human DNA that would have transferred onto the dog when I was petting the dog or kissing the dog or crying into the dog's fur. And then you figure out, not only is this a German Shepherd, but it has Jasmine's DNA on it. This is probably Jasmine's German Shepherd's DNA.
Right.
So there is much that could actually come into play from the apartment in Washington, because they did utilize the IGG in that warrant, although they did also ask the judge, to please not consider it for probable cause. So it just varies depending on what we have there. Does that mean
I thought that was the father's DNA that they were talking about.
No, I believe that they literally said investigative genetic genealogy, right inside that. Dustin Baker.
Right, because I thought
The
And I
warrant.
could be wrong. What's the name of the warrant? Do you know by any chance? If you don't, it's not a big deal. But
No,
I
it was
thought,
actually just the copy of the warrant for Washington.
okay, yeah, because I'm in the Idaho page. I want to look at that because I could have swore it was relative to. So at the time when they did the warrant, they had matched Bryan Kohberger's DNA through his father, or the sheath on the DNA through his father.
Mhm.
They hadn't matched him to the DNA. And what
Mhm.
I thought it meant, and I could be 100% wrong, but I thought what I had remember reading was that um, if the DNA, we're doing this based on the DNA from the father. If it doesn't end up matching, because they haven't done the Bryan Kohberger DNA, don't take this into consideration. Yada yada yada. I think I'll be honest, I was a little bit confused by it, but I want to bring it up. If anybody knows in the live chat, or if, what's the name of that document is, or what date it was, I'll pull it up and just confirm, because I could be very well wrong. You may be actually absolutely right about the IgG being used.
Let's see. I'll try to
Let's see.
if I can find it.
And the Flaxen Being says the 16th is CCTV they pulled. And that's what I was going to ask, because the 16th just says that Bryan Kohberger was observed going into a CVS. I don't know if that was being observed by FBI or police. But from what I understand is the FBI did have Bryan Kohberger's name at least sometime prior to releasing that information to the Moscow Police Department. From what I understand, that the date that they released that information to the Moscow Police Department was late on the December 19th or early December 20th. And when they talked to Payne, and Payne goes out there and speaks with the WSU officer that logged that information down, that was the 20th as well. And so I don't think that there would be any, and then, well, also the warrants get started at that point, the 23rd on a cell phone pings, and the 27th was his person. 29th, they finally got the warrant for arrest, and they arrested him. Well, the 27th, they got the DNA, then they got the DNA back and arrested him on the 29th, I believe. So it was fairly quickly, but they didn't get his name the Moscow Police Department didn't get his name until December 19th-ish. But according to Howard Bloom, who I know a lot of people maybe not trust everything he says or whatever the case may be, but he had indicated before
That they knew around the 11th.
Yeah, that they knew quite a bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that they had basically, in my opinion, and I want to get your thoughts on this, the whole stalking, no stalking online thing. Do you think that this could be some sort of turf war? Right, the Moscow prosecution doesn't want to admit that there may have been some sort of interstate crime going on here, whether he was stalking him from Pullman, Washington, or if he was, if he did do that chem lab break in and he utilized those pieces of equipment for the crime itself. And if it crossed state jurisdiction, I would assume that may be a situation where it becomes a federal case. And so to me, I thought, is it possible that that's one of the reasons why they're trying to maybe perhaps not bring that up to light?
Well, I think that you could possibly be right. And I only say that because it doesn't matter if it would have been Washington or Idaho or Washington. I don't think stalking is for the state to charge in this realm. I think it would be for the feds. So I think that that's like something they're saving in their pocket, possibly along with their IgG thing. Maybe that's not destroyed, but I think that that's something they're saving in their pocket so that if the state of Idaho fails at this, they can have a second bite at the apple. So
Right.
This all builds toward a federal case if they ever needed that.
Right. And I think they definitely would have a case there for the federal case, but I think you come into a situation where you have a prosecutor who's saying that there was no sign of it. Now, I know he said some weird things. He said some contradicting stuff in that statement. He stated that Bryan Kohberger didn't stalk one of the victims. And then when he addressed it, he said didn't stalk one of the witnesses. And then when they put down in the court documents referencing what he was mentioning, I believe it said any of the victims online. And so it was kind of three different things that were coming out as far as what he was meaning by that, which may be a reason why there's some confusion there on purpose. But if the prosecutor said, and I believe that's what he said, that there's no proof of this, and then it comes to find out that there was proof, I mean, it's a little bit of perjury, don't you think?
So I think that at the time that the prosecutor said that there was no proof of that, he didn't know how to prove that. I actually think he was telling you the truth. I think that he knew they were trying to prove that, and that's why it came off so frustrating to him.
Right.
Because plain and simple, I'm trying to prove that, but that I can't. And you're asking people about it, and I'm never going to be able to bring it in at trial if I can't prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's really the gist of what that argument was about and why it got so fiery. I do think that saying that then, and then using the example in his filing, i.e. whether or not there is a connection found, I think that tells you that something changed from back then.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I saw a document that read something about new filings that's coming up. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be a huge component, and I think that when it comes to connections, I think a lot of people go back to, when Bryan Kohberger first got arrested, the Goncalves family, they got his name. They went and searched his social media. This is before he was arrested. And so before the world knew his name, they were able to search his name, and they found some profiles that end up being associated with some of the emails that are associated with his name, with Bryan Kohberger, that are in the court documents, that these Instagram profiles had followed, some of the victims. Now, I know some folks are saying, well, maybe it's a, burner account. Maybe somebody created it at some point. Maybe they knew his email address. But the problem with that is, when you create an Instagram account, doesn't it require you to verify it through your email? And if that's the case, he would have had to, the person who created it would have had to have access to Bryan Kohberger's DeSales University email.
Yeah.
Why?
And the issue with that is also that clearly, like, law enforcement couldn't even get that out of a warrant, right? That's what Ann Taylor or whoever filed that filing, that's what they said in the filing, that DeSales agreed to assist because Google was like, hey, we're not giving you non-personal account information, which DeSales was, because it was a student account. So DeSales itself agreed to assist. So there is something in that DeSales email address. There's something tethered to it there. And it's the Instagram, if you ask me, that the family believes is attached to it. And so does Garrett Discovery. So, by the way, in Shadow Dragon. And I also wanted to talk about, the digital forensics experts. What about the network intrusion expert who did Kaylee's computer, who worked with the United States Secret Service? If there was anyone who was already working on the case, who was capable of getting access to Shadow Dragon or already having access to Shadow Dragon, it would have been that guy.
What is Shadow Dragon, for those that don't know?
The program that built the social map that Garrett Discovery put together to find the connection.
Now, do you think timing would be important if Bryan Kohberger was following the victims after they were deceased, or before they were their lives were taken? Do you think that would be important?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good to know.
I explained that, I think, a little in my last video. A lot of people are asking me that, when do you know when? And if you don't know when, then you can't prove that it even matters. And you could be talking about something that's completely irrelevant, even if it's real.
Right.
They want to really, drill. And they're really, honestly, they're just trying to get me to tell them when, to tell you the
Right.
truth. Their points are very valid, but I do know from Mr. Garrett when, but when doesn't actually matter at all. The reason why is because I actually followed those girls after they were deceased, right?
Right. So
And
that,
exactly. And I'm pretty sure there were plenty of people who followed those girls before they were deceased because they actually knew those girls, right? And people who didn't. And how many of our, in total, how many of our DNA also ended up in the house? So I don't think when he followed the girls matters at all.
mhm.
I think what matters is that there is a connection and your DNA is in the house and you sat there and let your lawyer say there wasn't in that court filing. And then not speak up when Dr. Edelman got grilled in such a way to admit that there wasn't. So this entire time, I don't know, because also again, the document had just been there for like a year, just
Hmm.
over a year. I don't, I don't, I don't know. I don't know how. I just don't know how anyone involved in this case in that aspect, like in that depth, wouldn't have known. I don't know. And then for it to be all over the internet and for her to not reach back out to Andrew Garrett, and ask him what that is about, because that's not the work he was supposed to do for her. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it seems like she should have had some questions that she didn't have. Um, so maybe they knew there was a connection, and maybe they knew that the prosecutor was having a hard time proving it, and they didn't think he ever would be able to.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. And and that answers the question of what, because my next question was, if it was afterwards, what would be the plan of action as to describing why it was important that it was afterwards? And you do make up some good, excellent points there. You said there was no connection, that he um didn't, he knew of the case because it was so close, but he didn't have a connection with him. So yeah, absolutely. And I think that if it was before, obviously, then that means that he knew of who they were before they passed.
Yep. So either way, it really wouldn't make a difference. And I think really all that matters is there or is there not a connection?
Yeah.
I've seen like you said, the account from the family. I know which account I saw. I do know that the account that they saw is the account that's right on the Garrett discovery document. It's the
Mhm.
account that drew in the information. Uh, when you look into the company Shadow Dragon, it's the account that is on their documents as well. Have you actually seen the little graph thing that Daniel Clemens put together?
I may have. I'm not familiar.
That's the
I'd have to
same.
see it to know if I've seen it. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's the same account that the Goncalves family, they saw the night of the arrest. So I do
Okay.
believe that I think that it's all going to end up coming back to be plain and simple. The police they were having a hard time. They couldn't figure it out. And I think they may have had to get a few really good experts together to filter through the information, especially if what I know of the Garrett discovery document is real, because there was allegedly just multiple Bryan Kohberger accounts that were connected to multiple Bryan Kohberger accounts.
Yeah.
So you literally can't just say like, well, Jasmine is subscribed to the Drunk Turkey Show on YouTube. You actually have to build this whole entire web using all these different platforms and things like that show that I am connected to you on YouTube and that is authentically me, because I'm connected to other things. And one of the things, again, was the background check. They ran a background check, used his phone numbers, his email addresses associated with credit card companies and banks and stuff like that. And the telephone number was the telephone number from Pennsylvania. So
Mhm.
there's a lot going on there in the document. that if you had researched Bryan back then, you can verify. Like, for example, people who ran a background check do know that that was the phone number that he had registered at his most recent job from the Garrett discovery document. So before going out there, whatever job it was that he was working, he had used that telephone number for them to contact him. And it's the number from the Garrett discovery document. So a lot of it just comes back together. The telephone number is obviously going to be the second telephone number that's redacted in the documents. The email is the DeSales email, and that's obviously now been released in the documents. There's bits and pieces of what is certainly to be real from that Garrett discovery document now being released in court filings.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Connor asks if that's the account that's they saw. Why aren't there Kohberger family members on the follow list? There are. There were Kohberger family members that were following that account, and vice versa.
And then you have to go into the other accounts too, because the other accounts that were tethered. Okay, so this is confusing. Bryan Kohberger was friends with Bryan Kohberger, and he was friends with his family on both Bryan Kohbergers. So it's not like they don't know that he had two Bryan Kohberger accounts. They absolutely do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was underneath both. Like, they were underneath both accounts as friends. So I think that it'll all come out in court, because I do think that they obviously have gone through and looked into a lot of this.
Early on,
just a second, I just want to add this on. Just a second. May 12th, an Instagram warrant came back, and it was the one with a missing username. May 13th, the grand jury convened, and May 16th, he was indicted. So I'm just saying there could be absolutely no link at all in that, but that doesn't sound correct. It sounds like they knew then that he at least had an Instagram and that they were having a hard time putting it together. It sounds to me like they went into the grand jury and said probably something to that nature. Oh, by the way, and we also believe that he followed the girls on Instagram and then deleted the Instagram, and now we're having a hard time proving that he followed these girls on Instagram. And then a week and a half later, he's like, I have no connection to these people.
A week and a half later, while he's in jail?
Yeah. Right after the indictment. Right after the indictment.
When do you think that he may have deleted that? Because if it sounds like right up to the indictment, and
so he
was already in jail, it sounds like maybe perhaps he had something on his phone that might.
No. So for my understanding, if you look at the warrant, the actual warrant has very specific dates on there. The start date and the end date are very specific. It's not indefinite. It's not running into present date. It had a very specific end date of November 21st, which was his birthday. So at some point, this Instagram disappears approximately, I would assume, right around his birthday.
Right.
So just a few days after the murders, literally 1 week after the murders, the Instagram would disappear. So if that helps you figure it out too, as to when, then there you go.
True story. And there was some rumors early on in this case, mainly from the mainstream media, that Bryan Kohberger had said hello to one of the victims multiple times through social media. Do you think that's going to possibly end up in court?
No.
Okay, good deal. I didn't think so either. I
only say that because I asked Andrew Garrett.
Okay.
I asked him where exactly that came from. In the accounts that they looked through, no, he doesn't recollect any messages being sent to either young lady.
Okay.
This was the following and some picture liking, but no, he doesn't recollect any messages being sent repetitively to either young lady. So add that into the mix of your thoughts about Andrew Garrett. He literally could have been as flamboyant as he wanted to and chose to tell me, absolutely not. there were no messages.
That makes sense. Because I obviously thought when that came out, I thought that was bullcrap. And the reason why I thought it was bullcrap, because they would have checked their social medias. They had a download of their phones. They would have seen anybody who was constantly messaging them in that manner. It wouldn't have taken hard to figure out that he had gotten pulled over in the town there once they ran his license or his name into the system. Then you see what kind of vehicle he's driving matches the one that's outside. Yeah, he would have gotten caught real fast. And so, I often wondered about that, but I thought I would ask if that was going to be coming up.
Yeah, I thought for a while, because he works with the media, that maybe that's where the media had gotten that from, because the document was released at literally the same time that the media was hearing this slew of information about Bryan trying to reach out to one of the girls on Instagram. So I thought that maybe those two things were related. But when I asked, he literally declined that there had been any messages. So the media couldn't have gotten that from him or from his document.
Why do you think that, or do you think, first and foremost, do you think Andrew Garrett's going to be called to trial here?
Absolutely not. He's entirely too expensive.
So that's the reason why neither the state nor the defense have hired him?
Yes. He
Makes
admitted
sense.
that. Yeah. He openly admitted that. So what he actually told me was that the Shadow Dragon software can do this literally in an hour. For this to be done in an hour, it's about $25,000.
In the wrong field.
So instead of spending $25,000 to have Andrew Garrett do it, what I think happened here is that Connor is hilarious. Daddy Garrett is ridiculous. Anyway, I think what happened here was that they just decided to go with 3 cheaper experts who are going to end up proving the same exact thing. It just took them more weeks. So, you know what I mean? So instead of getting it done for $25,000 in an hour, they got it done for, $7,500 or whatever. And it took 5 months or whatever. But they knew they had time because the trial just kept getting pushed back, right? So it all just starts to make sense that no, they didn't need him. It wasn't desperate. They would honestly probably never get the budget for $20,000 to $25,000 expert to begin with. And Mr. Garrett didn't mind, it sounded like, getting involved, but he actually did make mention of the fact that, it just wouldn't have been, worth it for him to have to keep flying back and forth and, stuff like that, and stay in a hotel for the course of the 3-month trial and stuff like that. So
Good deal. Good deal. I want to thank Jackie Blue for being the newest member. Appreciate you for joining the family. Thank you so much. No doubt. Last time when you had Andrew Garrett on the channel, he had some pretty choice words for some of the things that Cy Ray had done. Do you guys still think Cy Ray will testify for the defense? Or do you think that?
I actually don't. I don't think. No. I don't think. And I say this kindly. I don't think that low of him. When he said, I reserve the right to change my mind, I swear the feelings I had changed. I was like, okay, so even if this guy is BSing right now, he's already promising me that he's not coming back to BS if it doesn't work out. So I don't know if I think he is coming back at all. I just think that the information changed, and he already promised us that he wouldn't be back if that was the case. So I don't think so.
I took it that way, especially when the defense wants to throw out the cell phone activity, which would throw out Cy Ray's testimony saying that he was somewhere else.
Correct.
I thought that it was interesting that they want to throw out the vehicle warrant and the warrant for his home. Now, to me, those are places that Ann Taylor alluded where there was a lack of DNA or a total lack. I'll complete the phrase because some people say, oh, there was another word there. A total lack of DNA. Now, to me, not having DNA in a car where this person just committed a quadruple homicide with a knife in close proximity to his victims, that would be a strong advantage point towards the defense. Lack of evidence is still evidence, right? Now, if there was a sign of a cleanup, so let's just say they went into his car and they found luminol or they found bleach or any of these other things. I mean, the guy studied criminal justice with the PhD degree. He took in forensics, right? In DeSales. I have Steve from True Crime Web come on the channel all the time. And, he's in forensics. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some luminol or bleach cleaner and things of that nature that you would find in his vehicle. And in the end, regardless of how much bleach you find in there, I think that it doesn't outweigh the fact that there was no DNA. If I was the defense's attorney, I'd still harp on it. Like, hey, is it possible? I mean, he killed 4 people. This what the state is alleging with a knife in close proximity. No DNA in here, regardless of how well he tried to clean it. Do you guys really think that he's going to be able to get to every crease, every cranny, down to every molecule? And I think that would be an argument that they could have. I'm not saying that's the best argument that they have, but that could be an argument. I think that's more of an argument than throwing it out. And so to me, whatever was found in the car, apartment, his parents' home, had to be more damning than the fact that there was a lack of DNA, or maybe perhaps the lack of DNA means that there was some DNA, which would be a reason why you want the DNA or the vehicle thrown out. What are your opinions on having, the defense wanting to throw out the car, the search for the car, the house, and his parents' house? You think they found anything?
I do. And I think that it says that back then, and I don't want to call her like a bold-faced liar, so that I won't say that. I think it says that back in June of 23 in her court filing, when she said no connection, no evidence in the office, apartment, car, or parents' home, she didn't know that there was evidence. And the reason why she didn't know is because it hadn't all been shown to her yet. So they may have been able to, at that time, right? Because everything would have been set, discovery and all that, motions in limine and all that stuff would have had to have been done before October of 23 for us to go to trial the first time. And maybe if they had gone to trial back then and that type of discovery hadn't been turned over to her in time, then maybe there really wouldn't have been a connection or DNA in the office, the car, the home, the apartment. Because they waived their right to go to trial in October of 2023, they've now had enough time to sift through the discovery that they were given. And in that copious amount of discovery, she found that she was wrong. There is DNA and there's evidence. And now she doesn't want those things to come in at trial. So to me, it makes sense that back then she didn't know. Again, now she does. But maybe back then when she didn't know, like I said, would have been the time to take this to trial, because maybe all that discovery wouldn't have made it into her hands. She clearly now has it, and it's been years. So it just makes you wonder, did the state have that back then and she just didn't know it yet? Would they have been ready in October, or did they not have that back then? And maybe they wouldn't have been ready in October. When Bryan rolled the dice with his waiver of speedy trial, did he take a gamble and lose? So I actually think, yeah, there's something there, but I now wonder how long we've known that, and how long the prosecution has known that. When she said that, did he let her say that? Because in his head, he was like, yeah, there is, and there's a lot of it.
Maybe. I mean, Ann Taylor's been a merciless person to use a play of words. For instance, she and I think she got away with more in Judge John Judge's courtroom than she's getting away with Judge Hippler. And the reason that I believe this is, remember, in Judge Judge's courtroom, she said that Bryan Kohberger is an innocent man, that she believes he's an innocent man. And then in Judge Hippler's court, she says Bryan Kohberger sits there, an innocent man, right now. And then, there was a pause and then the whole right now. Um, when it comes down to total lack, does the word total lack, could that mean none? I think so. But could that also mean a little bit? I think so too, right? And if you're trying to be clear about what you're saying, and if what you think is true, that there is no DNA there, why not use the word none instead of a word that could mean some? You know what I'm saying? And so I think they may have known for a minute that there was some.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
want to say, oh, go ahead.
There's potential there. And again, that could have been something that she was just trying them on. I think she was trying them on the connection because she knew that they couldn't prove it. So maybe she was just trying them on the DNA thing because she knew that they were still working on things like that. So
Exactly. I'll say thank you, Cindy, for being the newest YouTube member. You guys that have become members, I'll put it out there in the members community tab, a link to our Discord where you can join the community, have a conversation with myself and the other mods and members. You don't want to miss that. So I would like to see you guys join it. Then you guys from the members, appreciate you guys tuning in. Kitty says, just like AT saying Bryan is innocent as he sits here today. Correct. That's exactly what I was saying. Journal and Decision ask if I will live stream the hearing on the 23rd. I think so. I think if that day's Thursday, I might be able to. I'm not too sure. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna put out my thoughts and everything about it. The plans for the remainder of the week is tomorrow. We're gonna have Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tales come on. We're gonna talk a little bit about Bryan Kohberger. We're gonna talk a lot of bit about Karen Reed, and then Tuesday is gonna be the hearing that they have scheduled, the one for the IGG. If anything comes out of it, I know it's scheduled to be closed. If some stuff comes out, we'll be doing a live on that. And then we'll be talking about the 2 days of cases there. See, so Swift Firely says total lack means complete absence of something, indicating that there is absolutely none if of it present. I don't think so, because the term lack doesn't mean none. And when I've Googled and searched the total lack, it still says, it could be none and it could be a small amount. And so I think that's a huge indication. How do you feel about her, Ann Taylor's demeanor and the things that she's saying now that she's in judge's chambers? Judge Hippler's. I'm sorry.
So I feel like she's trying to be a little bit more poised. I feel like it's necessary because Judge was clearly a little more lax than Judge Hippler. I feel like it pretty much, she kind of feels like new judge doesn't like us. I need to try and, get on his good side, or at least, be cordial with the judge, because he doesn't seem like he likes anyone, to be fair. Okay. Like, he doesn't seem like he wants this at all. So I just think that she's a little bit more poised and professional, sort of, as far as what she's trying to say. I also noticed that she touches Bryan a lot less too now. So I think she's just trying not to piss off the judge at this point.
Yeah, I think the judges clapped back a little bit at some of the tactics. I think this trial is going to trial when it's slated to go so in August this year. I don't have any question in that. Jetta Gypsy comes in with becoming the newest member. Thank you so much. I know somebody asked, what time? 3 days in a row. What time? I think tomorrow is going to be I want to say it was at 7:30, 7 o'clock Central. I'll be posting it up as soon as we get done with the show. I just don't like to have too many up at the same time, because then it kind of when I have too many shows that are planned for the same time, some folks don't get notification of some of them, so I wait till they're done airing. General Indecision says, thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate that. I have one here from Sirius that she posted up there, which is what what I thought of. So let's see. It is total lag means this. Total lag is an expression that means something is completely absent or in insufficient quantities. So insufficient quantities doesn't mean none. Doesn't mean none.
That's true. That's true. I would say that, again, even using the term lack way back then, it was really, really, really early on. This thing has been going on for almost 3 years. At that point, we were only 6 months in. So I would say that there's probably been a total change to the total lack at this point. So
Right. That's very well possible. It's just, to me, why use a word that can be interpreted, perceived one way or another instead of none? I mean, you can't get that wrong. Zero, nothing. Lack is a weird word to use in a court, scenery where you've used where they've used terminology like he's an innocent man, and then change it to innocent man right there as he sits. So it's just weird, right? So to me, I don't know. I don't like it. Are you going to be covering the hearings this week? What do you got going on?
So I am wondering about the hearings this week. I don't know if they'll even be public. So will there even be anything to cover? But if they are, then yeah, I think I will try to participate this week in the court hearings, or, at least do some reading of, the documents that come out of them or something. I am kind of digging a little further into some of the more recent stuff that came out and re-putting the timeline together and stuff like that. Doing a lot of phone calls and stuff like that. I do know the story behind the CVS and stuff like that. So I'm working on small things like that, and I'm thinking about putting a video out on the acquisition of some of those email addresses that the defense is now saying that they don't know how.
Like the one that's spelled out weird, that if you sound it out says username at gmail.com.
Yeah.
I thought about that, right? And I was actually talking to a buddy of mine, a mutual friend of ours, and I had told him, I was like, username. That's what, because I hadn't seen it, to be honest with you. I hadn't seen it yet, and I just went over it like a day ago, and he actually sent me the document, and I was going through the documents, and I was like, man, that's an interesting email there. And at first, I thought maybe some of the letters may have been mixed around, because there was an N in there, and then the U's, YEWS, and I was like, maybe there's like some it's all mixed up. Maybe it's supposed to be an N there, and I got to move some things around. And then I just like try to sound it out, and I said a user. Oh, I was like, all right, I already know what it is. As soon as I said that, now to me that tells me that he probably created something in a whim, right? And couldn't come up with something for a username or password, so he decided to create that. The password.
I think he thought that was like incognito. So, from my understanding, on the 16th of December, he went into a CVS. He paid for something. He had the receipt emailed to himself. He obviously opted for that himself. They are not the kind of place that asks you for your email. It's just the point of systems thing, like the register. It just does that, and you just punch in your email if that's what you want. So he had his receipt emailed to him, and law enforcement came in after to get a copy of the receipt. So they took the email from the printed receipt and used that in the Google warrant, which then produced username at gmail.com. And they're like, we don't know where they got that from. It was connected to something that was connected to Bryan Christopher 1994 at gmail.com. But they're like, we don't know where. Okay, well, they're clearly giving you all of the information, though. So I think maybe that's just another one of those times when they're trying to tell her that she needs to go back and do that same social mapping that they did, because social mapping is literally going to provide you those emails, all of them.
Wow. Yeah. You know, that's interesting. That's interesting. But I do think that you're right there with the with the CVS thing, and going in there, getting that, and then transferring it back, tracking it back. That's weird. I
I'm
mean, it
almost
could be anything.
100% positive that the person who I spoke to did not lie. I called
Okay.
the store.
Oh, okay. Well, that would help. They tell you anything about what was purchased by any chance?
No, they didn't even know what was like. So from my understanding, the person at the register who spoke to law enforcement was not the same person who dealt with Bryan. And they simply just printed the most recent receipt and gave it to the police. They
Understood.
didn't know who the receipt was even for. They just knew that the officer was like, I need the last receipt from this register. And she was like, it wasn't a printed receipt. It was an emailed receipt. And he was like, cool, give me a copy of that.
Huh.
That was my shorthand version of the conversation.
Got you.
Yeah. And I don't think, like I said, I called the store. I don't think the lady was lying. In fairness, she didn't know who I was, and she had no reason to. She didn't say she was the cashier. Like I said, she wasn't like, similar to what I said about Andrew Garrett. She could have said anything under the sun. She literally didn't say she was the cashier. She said she didn't deal with him. She literally just printed the receipt, gave it to the police. Just knows that it was an email receipt, and she gave it to the cops. That's it, and that's all. So just another person who could have, really made the story bigger than it was, but they didn't, and I just kind of believe her.
Got you. And so that tells
I
me
don't know
that.
what the receipt was for. Sorry, that's a comment. I don't know exactly what the receipt was for. Like I said, the lady didn't even know exactly what was on the receipt that she printed. And to tell you the truth, maybe she did, guys, and maybe she just didn't want to tell me that, but whatever. So I don't know that. Not at all. I do know that much, though. Rather it was like printing photos, picking up prescription, just buying a candy bar, literally anything in the store. That's what she told me. Anything in the store, every register gives you an option to send yourself an email receipt. So she wouldn't even tell me if it was like printing photos or grabbing a prescription. She didn't know.
And that's the email that he typed in for the receipt?
Yeah, the Bryan Christopher 1994 at gmail.com, apparently, because that's the one that they came out of CVS with. So she doesn't even know what the email address was. She just knows that at a point on December 16th, she was someone in the CVS who handed a receipt, an email receipt specifically, to an officer. So what are the odds that this isn't the same exact situation? December 16th, 2022, in a CVS near Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. So
Right.
I think she's spot on about that, but she just doesn't have any valuable information other than the answer, I guess, to what the defense is saying they don't know. Because they're basically like, he went into a CVS and somehow law enforcement got his email. Well, there you go, girlfriend. They said that it was because he punched it into their register.
I don't think they're that stupid. I really
Exactly.
don't.
That's why it's just another one of those things that's like, maybe she's just using wordplay.
Mm-hmm. And well, I know we only had an hour today. Is there any questions you have for me, or any thoughts or comments you want to say to everybody?
Well, actually, I think I did have some questions for you, but we went over them already, and you already gave your opinion on pretty much everything.
Well, I'm glad I was able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Anytime, any freaking piece of information that you gather, pass it along. I love to pass my stuff along. So now I called CVS and made a young lady feel real comfortable. And she spoke. Yeah, I really did, though. I played it up really well, and She just felt so comfortable.
That's good.
And at first she's like, are you an attorney? Because if I think you might need to speak to a manager. I think you might need to talk to my manager. And I was like, I'm not an attorney. It just no, don't pass me to your manager, please. But yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad that you were able to talk to them and to her and to get the information there. It was a great talk. I see one question that I want to answer, and then we'll call it a show. I know that you thought maybe there was a chance, or there is a chance, that Papa Roger is BK. For me, and the question is directed to me from Jack, why Daniel think BK is not Papa Roger? I don't know if he is or not. I don't think so. I would have thought the reason why I didn't think so early on was because of his major and what he would have known. To me, it would have been pretty obvious that if you go in there, create an account, and you're talking about the case that you, or the murder that you committed, is a modern day way of inserting yourself into the crime. And his studies and his expertise was in forensic cloud. Expertise in forensic cloud, that stuff, the technology stuff. And I just felt that that would be inserting himself into the case. It's probably not the smartest idea, but then again, he's made some stupid decisions.
Well, I also want to add something in for you to maybe ponder before you finish answering then.
Uh-huh.
Does it change your mind even a little? Like, how do you feel about the fact that I inquired and this is the one thing Andrew Garrett won't tell me?
Really? He won't tell you that if he is or not.
Yeah, he won't say either way.
That would be interesting. That is interesting. Because if he wasn't, I would just say, no, he's not.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. That's my point. So for me, Papa Roger knew a little bit too much, and I kind of did think that BK was Papa Roger. But then I reached out. I asked Andrew Garrett if he found Papa Roger in the social media map, and he will not tell me. So,
That's interesting. One of the things that I also thought why it wasn't him is because I could have swore he came out on the Facebook and said something about catching some fish, a large amount of a pound of fish. And I actually saw the post. I clicked on it, and I clicked on all the other posts that this person had put in. And I could have swore I saw all the ones that everybody was talking about, the cameras, the knife sheath, some of the questions. There was a lot of stuff that he got wrong too. But I did see the stuff that he did get right. And then all of a sudden that entire thing disappeared. I want to say I took a screenshot of it, and I had it for the longest time. But that was one of the reasons why I didn't think he was Papa Rogers. But like I was saying, he made a lot of stupid mistakes. I mean, he took his phone with him instead of leaving it behind. He drove his own car, even though I think that's probably not it's not the smartest thing in the world to do, but stealing somebody else's car, renting a vehicle, or borrowing a vehicle is even dumber to do. But he took his own car, got it on camera. He left the knife sheath, left his DNA at the scene. Made himself, because he took his phone, he had to admit that he was out and about by himself during that specific hour and has no alibi. And so, to me, if he did all those mistakes, is it possible that he did other mistakes that you will most commonly find? Yeah, I think he would. I mean, in my opinion, I think he returned back to the scene at 9 a.m. in the morning. That's something that is common with criminals that commit such a crime. Inserting himself into the case, whether it be going in and talking about, going in and saying something like, oh, yeah, I was in the area or whatever, just to try to figure out what what law enforcement knows. Or, we've heard where persons have committed crimes and they're part of the search party or things of that nature. And so he's made a lot of dumb mistakes, which is why I find it surprising that people are surprised he got caught with so many dumb mistakes he made. But I'll digress off that. Is it possible he made even more mistakes? 100%. And be interesting. I mean, if it ends up being him as Papa Rogers, then I think he's done. I mean, he put some things out there that weren't, I guess, available at the time or in
I
public
agree.
information,
I agree.
and that could really that would definitely be very hurtful to Bryan Kohberger's case.
Yeah, I think so. I don't, like I said, I don't know for sure that he's Papa Roger. I've never lied to you guys. I'm not gonna say that I do know anything for sure that I don't. I did ask. I had never got a solid answer, and it just feels like now I'm still 50-50. He doesn't have to be Papa Roger. Some people are suggesting, what if this is the other freaking guy to some extent or something, somebody who has more information or knew something. The pen register trap and trace thing, Bryan could have been talking to someone who literally wasn't there, and he's just telling them what he did. And maybe they made this account and got on the Facebook group and started spreading the information that he was giving them. So people are just assuming that he doesn't have friends and that Papa Roger couldn't be someone who just knows Bryan. And this isn't coincidental information that maybe they just guessed correctly, 16 minutes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe they just knew because they were having conversations with Bryan about what Bryan may have done. So,
Did I remember there was a TikTok video of somebody that was talking about certain things, and they showed a reflection of him in the I guess his laptop or something of that nature, and it kind of looked like Bryan Kohberger's head. Do you know if that was Papa Rogers or inside looking, or is that another third profile that was out there?
I'll tell you, I don't know, but what I do know is that there is a warrant for Bryan's TikTok.
That's true.
So just every social media platform there's a warrant for, or, just the ones that he, was screwing around on. The Facebook of Bryan Kohberger, the YouTube of Bryan Kohberger. So come on, they were calling in, there was Reddit posts. It's like, so I'm pretty sure some of those Reddit people might have also been Bryan too. So for example, we think the Reddit warrant is for the survey and the survey only, right? Or is it for some of those online personas from Reddit as well? So this could come back that maybe he is Papa Roger. He could have been some of those online personas. He could have been the person that was calling into other people's YouTube channels and stuff like that. It's all possible because there are warrants to support it. So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I thought the warrants were because of the Reddit thing. You have that one thing that's already there. You're gonna have to get a warrant to see if he has any messages or any of those type of things. See if he had any conversations with the people that were talking through that Reddit. I think that's going to play a huge role as well. But very much so. I mean, his personal Reddit, if he had other Reddits with any of those
to it, talking, like looking at his other Reddits from that Reddit, or looking at that Reddit from other Reddit accounts that he may have had on other devices and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that there's a way of building a sort of social map with that too. Obviously, they found the Reddit account on the Garrett Discovery thing and stuff like that. So if there were other accounts attached to that, I think they would have also found those. There's a lot that actually is in that Garrett Discovery document that people just don't really understand. And I guess because it's not being used, Mr. Garrett didn't really care to explain it, very well. But there's a lot there. There's various different actual connections from various different Bryan Kohberger accounts. So it's cute that we were all fussing and fighting and fretting over whether or not there was one account that would even be connected. And it turns out there are multiple. So.
Yes, 100%. Well, Jasmine, I appreciate you joining us. It was a great conversation. We always have a great conversation when you when you're on the panel. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for your amazing insight. Want to let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah. So I am always on X. I believe I'm just at forensic_frenzy on there. And of course, I'm always here, and I'm just the Frenzy channel here on YouTube. I'm not like Facebook, Threads. I'm not in too many places. Just here, just X. I simply post over on X. So if you're looking for something to read, visit my X. But other than that, you'll find me here on YouTube.
There you go. Well, the channel is in the title, the description of in the title description. You can click on the Forensic Frenzy link, and it'll take you to her YouTube channel. Make sure you go like and subscribe, and make sure you guys let her know that Drunk Turkey Show sent you. I want to thank everybody, and we'll be back on tomorrow night. I want to say it was like at 7:30 Central or so. And then we'll be back on Tuesday. Again, thank you so much, Jasmine, for joining us. I truly appreciate you. Everyone else, you guys stay safe this weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.